more about me. But thank you for taking the time to just let me drop some gems on you, and give you a little bit of nuggets. And without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So the topic that I wanted to cover today is discovering your brand. Again, I'm Casey Renee, and I'm the creative director for Snipes Design Agency. So before we begin, we ask that you please keep your microphone on mute. Feel free to take as many notes as you want, and then write down any questions that you may have. And at the end of the presentation, I am so happy to answer them. And also, I'm like the type of person, like, if you know that you take the nuggets and you're writing notes, and then later on you have any questions, just crawl in my DM. There's nothing wrong with it. I will answer you, and make sure that I expound on anything that you need to know. So today we will discuss your brand's current clients, clients that you would love to attract if they aren't the ones that you currently have, current and future competitors, and then also goal setting. Okay, so I'm gonna give everybody like 15 seconds to go ahead and get your pen, paper, mute your phones, whatever you need to do to tap into it. Okay. So I am Casey Snipes. I know this looks like a lot. This is the fluff that everybody puts in to make them be like, okay, but who is she to be talking to me about these things? Okay, so this is the fluff right here that I'm gonna give you. So I am Casey Snipes. I am better known as Casey Renee. I am a graphic designer, speaker, educator, marketing strategist, and business owner. I started my full-time journey in 2015, and I have successfully mastered the aforementioned and more. So as the creative director of the Snipes Design Agency, I help guide success-driven small businesses and brands through brand strategy, visual communication, and design details. I had the great opportunity to create logos, collateral, websites, and branding strategies for many clients, including the Bobby Christina Serenity House, the Fountain House, Lala Anthony, Yandy Smith Harris, and the Sandlot Georgetown. And during my downtime, I love sushi and wine, but I can't really drink it right now because exercising, but whatever. And I'm a mother of two very active but smart little boys, and congratulations to them. Virtual learning. Any parents on there, we are done. It's our time to shine and hone into our business like we are supposed to. We made it. So the question I want to start off with is, why is it important to discover your brand and hone in into what you discover? So when we up at night and we notice these things, then we're like, okay, I could do this for my brand, or I can do that, or that'd be great if I had this walkway, or if I came in this entry and they could see, if it's for a restaurant, they could see the ingredients, right? Why knowing who you can target with this, or the things that you implement, why is this so important? So the answer is because brand recognition is what we all strive for, but we have to do the work to discover how to define your target audience. Find out what distinguishes you from your current competitors and create your personal business brand profile. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to literally talk through the steps of where to even start. Like, I know that you have these $1 million ideas and you're like, but Casey, where do I begin? Okay, this is where we're going to begin. We're going to, if you're already in business, we're going to start at your current clientele. If you're not already in business and you are still in the kernel incubator phase of what you want to do, then you'll go ahead and when we'll talk about who you want to attract, then that's when you kind of will jump in. Okay. So we get into business, and I'm so guilty of it. Like, I'm ashamed to this day. We're like, okay, I'm going to sell to this person, this entrepreneur. I'm going to do logos for a celebrity, but then I'm going to do logos for this mom and pop, and the young, the old, the restless, the bold, and the beautiful, all that, right? And then we're just like, let's just sell. I want whoever wants me to work with them to just work with me, and I want to build my portfolio, and it's just going to be grand. That's not the way to do it. when you get into that mentality and not have a niche market or a target audience, and you start selling, you come to a lot of problems. One being that, from personal experience, when I was so adamant, because I just felt like I live in purpose, to have these clients, I didn't care where they came from or who brought them to me, they would be horrible. Like, oh gosh, like stressing, like I'm going to unfollow you on Instagram just so I can log onto my story and talk about you because you've annoyed me that bad, annoying. And then the problem that arises with that is, after that happens, they might have loved everything that you did for them, but you secretly hate it. You secretly hate serving them. You hate it when they came in your store. You didn't like anything. You didn't like it. And then the problem lies that birds of a feather, they flock together. So you did what you were supposed to. They loved their experience. You were ready to get out of it. But now they're telling their best friend or their sister or whoever else about you. And then the ball it just keeps spinning. The wheel just keeps turning and turning. And you're not getting the clientele in that you want. Okay. So I always pose that for what you have now, let's just assess it. Let's just take a step back and let's see what you have. And let's hone in down into things like their demographics, their interests and hobbies. What do they like to do in their free time? Where can you find them? Do you want them in your establishment during their free time? Is there free time coming off of work? Is there free time after playing basketball? Or if it's a service-based, do you want them to, in their spare time, thinking of a master plan? Whatever that is that you genuinely want. And don't feel bad. Like, you can say whatever you want. No one's going to see your notes. People always get like, I don't want to exclude anybody or do things. Whatever or whoever you want to serve when you live in purpose is totally on to you. Long as you are not being disrespectful to any other people that you are not serving, it's fine. Okay. Also, you want to get into their lifestyle. Do they have kids? Are they family? Do you want kids in your establishment? If you are a restaurant owner, do you want to service kids? If you're a service provider, say like you do hair. And then also, what does their income look like? Because you do and will have a price point. So if you have a certain price point and you're noticing like you feel like you're getting nickeled and dimed, or they come to your establishment for a restaurant and you're like, okay, they paid the bill. That's great. But the tips are lousy. That could also have to do something with income. So it's a lot of things that you want to take in consideration when you are dreaming of this master plan for this business. Okay. Got it? Okay. So I want you to ask yourself, does your current market fit into your brand's current values? So the market that you're serving, is it, and be realistic, not say, well, I did have 2 great clients the other day, or I had a group of customers that came in and they fit the bill, but everybody else didn't. No, you want it to be a continuous flow into your establishment or into your bookings or workflows that come in, and they're the caliber that you stayed up at night to try to get, and you put your blood, sweat, and if anybody's on here, we know tears to get. Okay. So if you answer no, what type of clients would you like to attract? And this is what, for the ones who are new to business, this is the question that you need to ask yourself. What are we attracting? I also would like you to say to yourself and really kind of challenge yourself, why do you want to attract them? Because also, one thing in business that I had to learn very quickly is, I know I wanted to be a service provider that did outstanding visuals and communication. But in wanting to attract them, what was I showing that presented that it would be a good fit, if that makes sense? So if you want to attract luxury or high-end people or good tippers or people who come from work and they're in suits or whatever that looks like, you have to make sure that you are doing your part to make sure that these people feel as though they belong, okay? And that it is a good fit for you. I don't know if you guys have ever been somewhere or worked with somebody and you're just so excited, and once you sign on the dotted line or once you open the menu, whatever that looks like, and you're just not excited anymore, you're not thrilled, and it doesn't even give what it said it's supposed to give, you know? So it's very important that we take that into consideration and make sure that we are doing our part if the answer is no, because it is a two-way street in business. So we want them to come down our street and want them to be a certain way. We have to make sure that we are giving them the same in return. Okay. So there's the things that we talked about. We talked about the demographics, the interests, the hobbies, your lifestyle, income. But this time around, again, I want you to dive even deeper, okay? I want us to think about their gender, man, woman, non-binary, whatever suited to. Make sure that you take that in consideration. And one good thing about that, it kind of helps with branding. If you're all inclusive and you don't care if it's men and women, you have like, that's when branding kind of gets I don't want to say fun because it's fun regardless, but you have more leeway with colors. It makes you think of colors. If you know that you're doing skincare and you want to do for feminine, then you would use like nudes and pale pinks. Or if you want to do if you're doing like a catering or a restaurant and it's vegan, you know, you would go for the greens or the whatever that looks like. Color is important, period. But you can go down into gender. You can also go into education. People don't look at like, okay, well, education is not so important, XYZ. But I'm going to tell you something. When you get exotic in some of your services, education is important, because sometimes you don't need them to know everything that's going on, but you want them to have some sense of what you're providing. And sometimes that jargon, and I'm not even saying like education, don't get it twisted, education like multiple degrees. That's not what I mean by just this type of education. That's cool to know, but I'm talking about education on what you're providing. Okay, so that's something to like, if we want somebody, prime example, for me to work with me as an entrepreneur, I work with small businesses and corporate. But as an entrepreneur, I would like you to have already been established for at least 5 years and worked with a brand strategist. Reason being is because you are now already educated on what the process looks like, what it entails, and what the expectations are from me to you. Okay. And the same thing could be when you go into establishments for food, culinary, anything. If you have those people who are thrill seekers who go in and they're just like, okay, I want to just try this. I don't know anything. I'm going to ask a couple of questions. But then you have those novice, and you want to continue to kind of get those novice in the door, because in all honesty, they get a thrill out of bringing people into their world. So they're like, oh no, you never had sushi before? Come in here. Let's go get X, Y, and Z. And those are the kind of clientele that you want to attract, because the client, your customer already has trust in your establishment. And then to show off their knowledge of the establishment or the food or the service, then they tend to bring in people. And those are the kind of birds of a feather that you would like to bring in, because they're ultimately educating each other in-house. So your work is cut out a lot less, and they can just enjoy the service or the food or whatever that looks like. Okay. And then other categories that will help you generate a strong niche for your company brand. Okay. And that can be just like, if you want to get any deeper, like, okay, what are people's eating habits? When do they, familiarity to X, Y, and Z. Sorry, I don't have a good example of that past eating habits, but whatever is in your actual niche that you care about. Say if I'm a gym buff and I'm like, okay, well, I care if they diet. So dieting, again, that's eating habits. But whatever coincides for that, then that will help you create a niche that will help better serve you in the long run. Okay, got it? Does that make sense for everybody? I can't hear you, but you know. Okay, so I have the answer. So what do you do when you are trying to figure out what this niche looks like? Okay, so I always tell people and my clients to create a persona. Okay, so doing this, it will allow you to truly know who you're trying to reach. Have fun with it. Give them like a name, a job, a homie, a girlfriend, like a hobby. They play ball. Give them a favorite store. And then this will help you recognize in the future if you pivot from where you want to be, or if you're trying to reach clients now, who will fit your brand goals, because you can just kind of look at them like, you're just like, have you ever seen a celebrity and you be like, oh, I would love for them to come to my restaurant or provide a service for them, because you just know that they would rave about it correctly or present it correctly, or whatever that looks like. So that's what this persona is for. Again, and then a note, if your established clientele is accurate, I would still create a persona, like I said, to just have it so when it's time to expound or find a partner. And I say this because I used to be a freelance situation for, I used to be KCRenee.com. And when it was time to do an agency, it's very important when you onboard people, and as you know, especially if you're doing restaurants or culinary, when you have other people alongside you helping you grow, that they know what they're looking for. So I always tell people, if you have a persona, it's very easy to then sell that persona to who's working alongside you, so your visions remain the same. Okay, so let's have fun with it. I made one. So I made a mock company for you guys. I told you guys I love sushi. Like, it's not even a joke. But I made a mock persona and establishment just so you can kind of see how the two pair. So if I was the owner of Lotus Sushi, um, my price range is, I think usually on Google, like, it goes up to $4. So I just did 3 because you can save the extra $4 for my tip or whatever. The location I put it was in downtown Charlotte, North Carolina. I really like Charlotte, even though I'm from Maryland. The extras that they have are, or selling points. I always think of extras as selling points, or that kind of puts you in a league of your own, is that there's outdoor and indoor seating, which is a great plus right now, especially because of COVID. I mean, we already, I don't know if you're from the DMV area, but we do a lot of brunches and things like that. We already like to sit outside. So if your establishment has one, that's also a selling factor, especially, again, for people who, even though the mandate for masks are over, you're still wearing one, like I do. There is table bottle service. I don't mean like club sparkler bottle service. I mean, maybe there's a waiter who comes with a cloth and he's saying, okay, this is our finest sake, whatever that looks like. And then also there's a face-to-face chef, and that gives you and enhances the customer experience, as you see to the picture. Okay. And then just amazing decor. I'm talking about West Elm, not IKEA. Like they really went out their way to make sure that you'll rant and rave about the ambiance as well as the sushi. Okay. So that's my establishment. Knowing my price point, knowing what I have to offer for my establishment with my team, I then decided to come up with a persona. And this is Elijah. Everybody say, hey, Elijah. I don't even know if this man looks like an Elijah. I don't know. He fit the bill to me. So his name that I made up was Elijah Morris. He looks a little swanky, which, is good because it seems like he's making moves. He's coming from somewhere. His age is 32. Again, this can be a bracket, a range of age. It doesn't have to be like, I want a 32-year-old. It can, but if you're just like, I know I'm like 3 years in the gray, that's okay. His occupation, he is an accountant. He loves to travel. He does like sporting events, festivals, and he is a foodie. Like, he loves and raves about food. He will tell you where to go and when you're there. This is the novice that I was currently talking about, that he will tell you and educate you while in the establishment of what he's already eaten, why it's good, and compare it to even other restaurants that don't do as well, because those happen too. Like, oh, I had this, like I have an example. I had this corned beef hash at such and such, but I had it at Ruby Slippers in New Orleans and no one can touch it. You want that. So he's a novice in that aspect. He does have a family. He has a son that's 4, and he has a longtime girlfriend, which they like love to date, and he brings her into the establishment too. And then extra is he loves trying new places, and he is the lead on date nights. Clearly, Elijah's a unicorn because men don't usually plan date nights. But, we're here and this is just who we want to target. So this is Elijah. Okay? So after, and I know that was a quick switch, but after you're done with your persona, hold them to the side. And then I want you to go back to your thinking. I don't know if everybody, I know I used to have a journal when I was in incubator stage of everything that I wanted to do, who I wanted to track, and it was just in a journal. So go back to wherever you keep your thoughts, phone, tablet, and I want you to then put your personas to the side and start on your competitors. Okay. So when we start thinking of business, the first thing we do, even if we don't want to admit it, we are comparing. There's a scope. We just scope out competition. You pull things that you want from certain people and you pull things that you don't want from certain people. And this is a great thing to do. This is really essential in helping you establish the goals of your niche for your company, as well as the placement for your products or services into the forefront of your ideal clientele. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I get on the phone with a lot of clients and they say, I mean, I don't got no competition. I am my biggest competition. No, 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 no. Yes, you are your biggest competition. However, it is really important that you see what's going on around you. Okay. And it's not to mimic, it's just to notice what you don't want to make mistakes that are already given to you and that you can blatantly see. Why would you waste your time, your efforts, and your money that's given? So yes, you are your biggest competition, quote unquote. However, it's very important that you take the time to research your surroundings. And I'm not even who's parallel to you, even research those who are above you, because ultimately the goal in business is growth. Okay. So, a couple of questions to ask yourself while you're doing your research and you're going back and forth is, how do the competitors compare with the research you have done? Okay. Um, what are they doing to keep customers attention? And then there's also it's one thing to get somebody in the door, but pay attention also to what people are doing to keep them. I always tell clients, when you're working with established, if you're like a restaurant or hairstylist or anything like that, look at people's reviews. Okay. Because they'll people will tell you the good things, of course, but people are very, very quick and vocal to tell you the bad as well. So make sure you're reading both. Now, we are realists, and in business we have those people where they're spewing out the bad and it's clearly personal. So make sure that you kind of navigate that with a grain of salt, but really pay attention to inner working problems. Maybe they say, I was on hold for too long, or the food was cold, it was always cold, or things like that, where it's beyond a personal problem and it's a business from a business standpoint as a whole. Okay. Then you want to ask, what are some things you believe that they're doing wrong? I'm I'm really big on seeing a business's weakness as well as their strong suits. One thing I could say for me was, at a time, my weakness was I had a bad habit of 11th hour. You know, it was really bad for a time because I was like, I don't feel creative. Had to get out of that because people were starting to say that, and for my defense, this was like almost 6 years, 7 years ago, so I'm not that girl anymore. But that was something I had to truly work on. But one of my strong suits that I can say is, I feel as though I don't design to the same caliber as a lot of people. I feel like I kind of, everything in my portfolio looks different. So I say to look at that when looking at competitors. Do you think that they're doing wrong? And then what are they doing that's oh so right? And then also, we want to go into, what are they doing to advertise? What is their social media like? Are they doing social media? One quick note about social media: if you're not going to use it, don't even start it, because you can do yourself a really big disservice. And I say that because have you ever logged onto a service provider's or a restaurant or anybody's, and you might see a flyer from 2019, and that's the last thing they updated. So you're like, wait, they ain't changed to 2019. Are they even still in business? Or you're on a service provider and the service provider has a million blog posts, but then on May 2017, they stopped blogging. You're like, okay, maybe they're not active anymore. So if you leave things rogue, people start to ask themselves subconsciously, like, okay, are they even still active? Should I even, or could we go to the next? So that's my little tidbit about social media. Also, time out. Elijah likes Instagram and Elijah likes TikTok. And he only does TikTok because he makes them with his 4-year-old son because he wants to show how cute he is, period. So think about that as well in your niche market when you're doing your persona. Also, maybe radio. In DC, the DMV area, we have WHUR, and it's run by Howard. And we have like the Frank Ski show, and it's something my mom and dad always listened to in the car when I was growing up. It was like they play like Quiet Storm and things like that. They would always have a lot of spots for restaurants, Oohs and Ahs, Ben's Chili, but like they would have a lot. And I was like, that's a lot of spots, because in my mind, until I went to school and thought how words play on it, in my mind, I was like, you can't see the food. But there's ways to do it. So see if radio benefits you. And if it does, what does that look like? Okay. And if your competitors are using radio and you see that they are gaining traction from it, it may be something that you may be interested in. Also, the same thing with press, commercials, anything that's advertising, billboards, if you want to feel fancy, things like that. Whatever that looks like for your competitors, kind of gauge it, see how it works. And then if it's something that you feel comfortable and you think that it would benefit you just as well, do it. Okay. All right. So lastly, what I would like to talk to you guys about is goal setting. Okay. Because no one enters into this whole business thing wanting to be in the same position like 5 years later. Like that's no one's goal. And if it is, you need not do it. Okay. It's really important that you take the time and you map out these goals and you make sure that they are always visible. You heard the saying, out of sight, out of mind. That's really how it is, and for most people, without seeing their goals, they casually just continue to go on the motions, and they don't realize that they're approaching or they have missed milestones or markers. Okay. And here's what I want you to do to outline your goals, and I want you to be very detailed and exact in what you want, and try to never settle for your goals or the time you set to achieve them. So if you have something like Post-its, a whiteboard, or anything in your focal daily, or even if it's on your phone and you want to set an alarm, make sure that you do keep these goals in the forefront. But I like to break them down into obtainable action items. Okay. So when I onboard clients, I always ask them what their goals. I say, what's your 3-month goal? What's your 6? What's your 1? And then I ask them their 5. So those are the ones I get to. The reason why is because when you're getting branded and you're working with a brand strategist, or you're working with any entity to up your business and level you up, you want them to level you up to where you want to be, not for the now. Because if I sign a client and I'm doing brand strategy and I'm just strategizing for what they want right now in these 3 months, well, when the 3 months is gone, they have outgrown their brand. And then it kind of makes no sense. The goal is you should be doing the necessary work for you to grow into your brand, and not you growing out of your brand very quickly. Okay. So when you do these goals, get really detailed. So let's say, for example, this 3 months. For 3 months, I want to secure social media handles. Okay. For each platform that I decide to use. Again, don't use all of them if you're not going to keep up with them, but whatever is comfortable for me at that time, make sure that you utilize it. I know at that time, I also feel like I want to onboard an assistant. What does that look like? Is it from a school? Is it from a platform that does like Indeed, whatever that looks like. You have to set in action items to how you're going to get there and make sure that 3 months there's an assistant sitting beside you. Also, you might want to generate a lead capture for future emails. Maybe your website is not completely up. Maybe you're still in incubator stage, but you know when it's time to go, you want to have these emails to let people know. Here's also a tidbit from just a brand strategy note. If you are in incubator stage, let people in on your journey. I tell you to let people in on your journey, good and bad, because ultimately, when you open doors or you um, are ready to provide that first service to client one, people have watched you get there, and the respect level as well as the like just the rooting for you. It is insane how much strangers root for you. It's a beautiful thing. But you want to let them in on your journey, because then ultimately when you do open doors or whatever you decide to do, you'll already have a sense of recognition from certain people. Like, hey, I saw them on TikTok when they were breaking ground. Or, oh, I followed her when she was working with a brand strategist, and I helped pick the logo. She put a poll up and it said one or two, and I picked one, and look at her doors. One is on there. So make sure, if you're comfortable with social media, get them involved to where you want to go. And another thing, having people involved in your social media or your process, that's one thing to really keep you accountable, because you don't ever want to be like, well, what happened to what you was doing? No one likes that question, so it'll keep you going as well, because you're like, oh, they like that, all right, now we got to show them the floors, we got to do this. So tangent, but always something good to keep in mind. Okay, so we're going to wrap up. All right, and I hope you guys learn, took some notes, but it's really important to identify and honing into your brand's target audience. It is essential to developing a brand's identity that speaks directly to your business goals, because that's ultimately it. You have your competitors, you know who you want to work with, you're tired of working with certain people, you have your niche, you have the target, then you're going to go ahead and make the goals for it. You look into your competitors, and then boom, you have your idea as a whole. Okay, so make sure you're doing the upfront work to establish your brand and the goals of your business, so you're building a successful brand from the start. Nobody likes to start over and over and over and over again. It does happen. However, let's try not to, and take the time. Don't get in the rat race, and also don't get into the social media race of, oh man, they just said they was gonna open this. Oh, it's open in a month. Who cares? Their journey is not your journey. So make sure with your branding, you take the time and you get exactly what you want. You're doing things the way that you want to, so that your brand speaks volumes and is a true testament to you, your team, or whatever it's built upon in the end. Okay. So thank you so much for joining me today. It's a lot of hand movement, but for any additional questions, you can also email me at hellosnipesdesignagency.com. Please feel free to log onto the website and just look around at Snipes Design Agency. And then, of course, you can find me on Instagram at Snipes Design Agency. Thank you guys so much.
Do we have any questions from anyone on? If we do, feel free to unmute yourself and ask away. This is the perfect time to get a little one-on-one consulting, kind of like informal consulting on branding from a branding strategist. So feel free to ask any questions that you might have.
Can I push escape?
Yes.
Okay, I can see myself now.
Okay, then also click out of the screen so we don't see.
How do we do that?
I got it. There you go. Okay. We'll give you guys about 2-3 minutes, and if you don't have any questions, as a reminder, feel free to email Casey, visit her website,
slide in my DM, all of that.
I can ask the question.
Shoot.
So do you, if many of